Hi, folks. I miss you terribly, and I will so look forward to being back with you soon. But in lieu of my being here, I did want to make sure that you got the information, the background information on Hamlet. It is arguably one of our most complex plays. It is also one of our richest. And I do really feel that if you have a bit of background on the play, I think it will help your overall understanding as you go forth reading it. So a couple of things to be aware of in terms of Shakespeare and his works. Hamlet was published in terms of the Shakespearean version around 1600. There were earlier versions. Shakespeare, as tremendous as he is, tended to borrow his tragedies. So Romeo and Juliet, Othello, Macbeth, Hamlet are all stories that existed in other forms. And Shakespeare took these legends and these stories and reimagined them, or redefined them, rewrote them. And so Hamlet is one of the first of Shakespeare's tragic plays, and it is his most mature. Hamlet, as a play, deals with pretty heavy-duty questions in terms of emotional and intellectual existence. Hamlet as a character is very, very well developed. He's very mature. He's very conflicted. He is very emotional. He is a different construction of a male protagonist than what we've seen before. Previous to this, male characters were written in a very masculine, almost macho presentation, very warrior-like. Hamlet is the first presentation we have of a thinking man, and that's a really interesting character piece to delve into. In addition to his development of Hamlet as a character, Shakespeare also wrote part of this play for himself. One of the things that you may have noticed as you read Shakespearean tragedies is that Shakespeare tends to write a little part for himself in each play, and he plays a role in that play. So, for instance, in Romeo and Juliet, he played the apothecary. In Macbeth, I am not actually sure what role he played there. And in Hamlet, he plays the ghost of Hamlet's father. So a couple of things to be aware of in terms of the backdrop of Hamlet. As I'd said, Hamlet is not originally Shakespeare's. He actually took Hamlet from a Scandinavian legend and reimagined it. So the earliest account of the Hamlet legend is 13th century, and Shakespeare's writing of it came in the 16th century, or the 1600s. And so even in its earliest incarnation, Hamlet was extremely entertaining because it had adultery and murder and revenge and madness, and it sounds a little bit like a soap opera or a novella, and that's absolutely true. It's got all the aspects of it. And of course, Shakespeare being Shakespeare did deviate and take some artistic liberties. So you'll see probably a lot more in terms of the adultery and madness component in the Shakespeare version than you would have seen in the Scandinavian version. So prior to getting into the play, there's a little bit of background that you want to know. So before the play even begins, there's a lot of action that's already happened. Our play begins in media res, meaning that many things have already happened before this play actually opens. So before the play begins, King Hamlet of Denmark and King Fortinbras of Norway battle it out in a duel. And King Hamlet emerges victorious and takes Norway as his prize. And after he has claimed Norway as his prize, King Hamlet has died. And I'm not going to give you much of a spoiler alert by telling you that we find out that he didn't actually die of natural causes. He was murdered. And he leaves behind a widow, his Queen Gertrude, and he leaves behind his son, Prince Hamlet, and he leaves behind a younger brother named Claudius. So as Queen Gertrude grieves the loss of her husband and Prince Hamlet travels home for the funeral, Queen Gertrude ends up marrying Claudius. who, yes, is Hamlet's younger brother. Yes, I realize how that sounds. And yes, we're going to talk about that a little more. Um, so when the play opens, King Hamlet has died. Prince Hamlet has returned for the funeral and has not been given the crown, which, if you think about the lineage, he should have been king. He was not. When King Hamlet died, his younger brother Claudius usurped the throne. He became the king and he married the widowed Queen Gertrude. So, as the play opens, we are going to have a lot of conflict here between Queen Gertrude, her new husband, who is her former brother in law, and her son. Um, and if that's not enough, we're going to throw King Hamlet's ghost into it. So the ghost starts appearing, and later on, as we begin the play, the ghost appears to Hamlet and tells Hamlet, the prince, that he must exact revenge and kill his murderer. So it sounds a lot like a soap opera right now, I think. And all of this drama exists as the backdrop for major thematic ideas, major issues that we want to talk about in this play. So you'll see that in this play, we'll talk about this importance of social stability and orderly succession. We saw this in Macbeth too. We saw that when the rightful heir to the throne does not ascend appropriately, we see that chaos then ensues in the world. And we see this happen in Hamlet too. A major societal commentary that is made here too is that appearances can be very deceiving. Society can put on a wonderful face. An individual can put on a wonderful face, but be really rotten and be really terrible underneath it. And so that's a significant social commentary, not just for a society as a whole, but for individuals too. And you'll see a lot of content dancing around the notion of maintaining integrity and maintaining loyalty. So one of the essential questions that comes up in Hamlet is this question of trust. Are loyalty and honesty just words? Or can people be trusted? Can people be loyal? Or is it a reality that even the people we love will betray us at some point? What you'll also see, if we're looking at this recurring idea of appearance versus reality, appearances being fake or belying the reality underneath, we see this continue in an extended metaphor of the theater, and the theater being a metaphor for life. Shakespeare likes to promote this idea that each of us, each human being, is an actor. You know, that we have a role that we play in front of other people, but that's not who we really are. And I think that that's a really interesting idea, because I think arguably that's something that we contend with and think about today. We see in Hamlet, there is also this discussion of how a society can become corrupted and rotten, that there is a diseased body politic, that if we have um, a bad ruler, that if we have somebody who is duplicitous leading us, that we may become infected by that as a society. And that's a really interesting piece that actually came up a lot in discussion in recent years. We also see in this play a very rich discussion of the conflict between parents and children, especially when children get older. And I think this is always an especially relevant topic to think about, because Hamlet as a character is not so far off from the age that you are. So he is a young man who is coming into his own as an adult and learning to be an adult while also being a child. And so I think it creates a really rich discussion of that relationship as well. And I think the other piece that we really get into here is this development of Hamlet here. As I'd said previously, Hamlet was a new character as a new male character. Previous to this, men had been characterized as a little bit brutish, more action-oriented, more physically engaged. Hamlet was the thinking man, and Shakespeare created the thinking man's hero with Hamlet. This is a man who is sensitive. This is a man who thinks through action and consequence and thinks about what ramifications come of the actions that we undertake. This is a man who embraces the emotion and wrestles with the emotion, which is very different from male characters previous to him. And for those of you who are thinking, "Hey, I could be interested in this Hamlet character," you actually will. Hamlet is one of the smartest men out there. He is wickedly smart, way smarter than any other character in this play, and we as an audience get to see it. We see a heavy use of puns coming out of him. We see a lot of sarcasm coming out of him. If you are a sarcastic and smart and humorous kind of person, you'll appreciate Hamlet and the way he talks circles around everybody else in this play. He's very smart, he's very witty, he's very sensitive. And again, he is divergent from any other male that was characterized at that time. So I think you'll enjoy him. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a plot summary just to give you a little bit of a heads up. So before the play, again, King Hamlet and King Fortinbras get into a duel, and Fortinbras loses Norway and his life to King Hamlet. And while all this is happening, Hamlet, the prince, is away at college. And so King Hamlet dies after he has taken Norway away from King Fortinbras. And while Prince Hamlet is en route home for the funeral, Claudius, who is the king's younger brother, usurps the throne. And Queen Gertrude, he ends up marrying his sister-in-law, which is this next bullet point. And during that point, the ghost who looks like the old King Hamlet is starting to appear. And it will not talk to anyone until Hamlet arrives. And it will talk to Prince Hamlet. And the ghost tells him that he is the ghost of his dead father, and in order for his soul to rest, Prince Hamlet must kill Claudius. And that is where we begin our play. The crux of this play is Hamlet trying to come to grips with the fact that he might have to take a life, even if Claudius has killed his father. Taking a life is still taking a life, and Hamlet understands that. And what we will get into here is this character study of Hamlet. When we meet him, he is mourning. He's lost his father. His mother has remarried his uncle. He is not the king of Denmark. He is depressed. He is suicidal. And on top of that all, he's having relationship problems. So Hamlet is dealing with a lot of things on an emotional level. And he's given this charge of trying to exact revenge. So a huge amount of responsibility is placed on this character, and the bulk of our play is watching him wrestle with that. And we see him take this path of a hero's journey. And I guess the question is he truly heroic? And maybe the question is, are any of us truly heroic? So I had mentioned earlier that Hamlet is dealing with all of these issues, his father's death, depression, suicidal tendencies. These are fostered further by the fact that his girlfriend Ophelia breaks up with him. And it's not because she doesn't love him, it's because her father tells her to break up with him. And we will get into a little bit more of this relationship as well. But as you're looking at these further bullet points, you'll see that he's not only betrayed by his girlfriend, he's betrayed by his two best friends as well. When they come to Denmark and are asked to spy on Hamlet by Claudius. So there's a lot going on here. It is very much like a soap opera. If any of you are Disney fans and have watched The Lion King is a reimagining of Hamlet. So if you ever needed a reason to watch a Disney movie, maybe this is one of them. I am so looking forward to getting back with you and talking with you more about this and reading this play with you. But hopefully this gives you a little bit of an overview and a little bit of background as we get ready to start on this. So I hope that you are having a great day, and I will see you soon.